Hi everybody, this is Clarine from In Reenie's Room. Today we're going to be making a twist and pop card. Now I made this one with the Get Well theme, and it's called Twist and Pop because when you open it up, the inside just twists and pops right up at you. Anyway, this one is going to be for a Get Well card. Of course, you know you can always change the colors and the themes. And then on the back side is another one of the Red Cross frogs. Okay, so this is how we're going to do this. These are the measurements that you're going to be cutting out. They're pretty basic. I am going to go over the mechanism inside that makes them twist out with you. But some of this I did ahead of time because there's several layers and there's no sense having you watch me just glue layers upon layers. So what you're going to start with is the base card. You're going to need to cut one that is 4 by 12, which is going to be the base of your card, like this. Then you're going to cut also out of the same color a 3-inch square that you'll use for the inside sentiment backing. Then you're going to cut one that is 3.5 by 10. This is still all in the green. And then I'll show you how we are going to score those in a second. And then you're also going to cut one that is 8 by 3.5. And this is going to be that mechanism. Now for my contrasting color, let's switch on down here to the panels. I selected yellow. So you're going to be cutting 4 that are 5 7/8 and then a 1/16 less on that on each side. And then you're going to also cut 4 that are the little squares that go on that mechanism that bounces out. So we'll be cutting those. And then for the pattern piece, you're going to be cutting 4 that are 5 5/8 by 3 5/8. So you'll cut 4 of those. And then you're going to have your little sentiment panels, and you'll cut 4 of these, and these are going to be 2 inches by 2 7/8. Okay, so let me show you how we're going to put all this together. So what I did was I brought all of my parts and pieces into Photoshop so that I could make the card front. These are those 4 that when you open it up, they pop up at you like that. The little frogs came from Creative Fabrica, and then I brought them into my Photoshop and then I designed my own background to set them in. So that's what those are going to be. And then you're also going to cut, these are the 4 pattern papers. And then the frogs, this is the hardest part, believe it or not, is fussy cutting these little frogs out. But it can be done. I've done several. And then I outlined them with this little Cali marker. And that gives it a nice edge. Otherwise, I didn't do any distress inking the edges or anything because there's a lot of white, and I just didn't think it would look as good. All right, so what I want to do is go over that mechanism with you. Now this is the base, which is 4 by 12, and I went ahead and did the other 3 edges, and I'll put the front of the card together with you. Oops, dropped something. Hang on. Okay. And then that other section that you cut that was 3.5 by 10 is this piece. And then you're going to score that at 2.5, 5, and 7.5. And then you just fold the middle one back. Got a lot of burnishing. Remember, it's important to burnish. And then I'm going to fold these Then I'm going to set that to the side for a minute. The mechanism that holds all that together is the piece that is 3.5 by 8. And what you're going to do is you're going to, with the short side on the top, you're going to score at 1 3/4. And that's going to be the center long line on here. Then you rotate that, and you're going to put a pencil mark at 2 1/4 and 5 3/4. You can erase these later if you want. And then you're going to pivot this all the way around and do it so that you're coming from each end. So again, I'm going to put a little mark at 2 1/4 and 5 3/4. Now these are going to make an X. You're going to score between these 2 dots and these 2 dots. And to do that, I'm taking the middle of my scoreboard where I have the line so that I can stay centered. And I'm just going to go from this mark down to that one. So I'm lining it up in the on that line that I darkened. And I'm just going all the way down. And then the other side as well. So I go from this dot down to that dot, keeping them on that middle colored score line there. And you come on down. Okay. Now, that middle line that we made is going to be a mountain fold when we're done. So I'm going to fold that, burnish it. Then these other, the big X that we made, I'm going to fold those back just because, remember, whenever you first start your lines, you always have the valley fold. Goes down, and then you bring your score marks up. That cuts down on cracking. And once these are done, you kind of can go back and forth anyway, but it is important to do that the first time. So what I want to do is I want to keep this center line a mountain fold, and I want these to be valley folds. So I'm going to fold them back up the other way. And I am doing a lot of burnishing because this has to fit in the middle of that card. And this one's going to come up. So these 2 that make the X are valley folds. And then what you simply do is fold those so that it forms a little house. You see how I did that? Mountain fold. Here's the 2 valleys. Kind of pivot it a little bit. Push those mountains in, and it makes a little house. So I'm going to lay it down here. And it is important that you get as close. If you don't have, because of your different score lines, sometimes you don't get them to meet identically, right in the middle there. If there's a little bit of space, you just get it as close to that as you can. And then go ahead and burnish the edges, because it's got to lay as flat as possible. Alrighty, so then I'm going to take some score tape, and I'm going to put it just on the top of this house that we have formed. Put one there, and one on the top here. This is going to hold it into the card. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. That's the bottom. And there's the top. And then you want to burnish this real good because you want this to stick. Doesn't matter which side goes up or down when you put this on. I use my little pokey tool and pry that up, and that piece. Now this is going to go on the inside of your card. So I went ahead and put on my two bottom panels. This is the contrasting color and this is the patterned one. And then I also did that on the back. And then I'll decorate the front with you so you can see how everything layers up. So make sure you know which is the front and which is the back. You're going to lay it down here. The tip of your house needs to go in the middle of this piece here. You do not want to come up and be inside of your score line. So you're going to go just below it. You might even figure you're going just above the yellow line. So it looks something like this. And what I'm doing is I'm scooting it down so that I'm not on the score line. And I'm eyeballing that in the middle because at the same time you have to make sure that these two edges are equal over here. See how they're lining up with the side of your pattern paper. Now this is up too high, so I got to bring that down a little bit so that I'm not on that score line, making sure my sides are even. And that looks pretty good to me. You don't want to come down real low, you just want to miss that line so it will fold. So I'm going to, oops, got to do it with it on this side. So I'm going to do that again without putting any pressure because that's the side that had my tape on it. So let me put this down and do that because you get the idea of what I'm talking about. So I'll put that up there, matching up my sides. Double check before I put it down. And yes, I'm clearing that seam, that score mark. Okay, so I'm going to call that good. I'm going to press it down, and then I'll flip this up so I can burnish that tape. Then I'll take these two off. And then all I'm going to do is bring the top over, making sure that everything is lining up on the sides. And down here at the bottom. And then press it down. And then I want to be sure and burnish those, so I'm going to flip it over and put these down here. Now, if you mess up, and I know this because I did it, I messed up before, you want this to go like this, and if you have that in the right spot, then this opens up and lays flat. If it doesn't lay flat, it just means that you didn't get that little corner up or down low enough. Don't worry about it. The card is still going to work, but it just works easier if you have it to lay flat. Alrighty. So what we're going to do then is take this other piece that's going to hold our little get well quick guys. And I'm going to put them on. There's 4 of them. I went ahead and did 3 of them. And since mine have a message, I have to make sure I get them in the right little squares. So get well real. And I'm going to glue the quick down. And remember what I'm always telling you about these corners. You want to make sure, oh, come on, glue. I left it setting too long, so let me just kind of poke that up. You want to make sure you get glue in the corners, so you put a dot there, and kind of like a little Christmas tree corner. And then a little bit on the edges. Doesn't take much. And then you center it on here. Now I had dry fit mine earlier, so I know these all fit. So make sure that you don't miss that step. Be sure and dry fit everything, because sometimes you have to make adjustments. But I already dry fit these, so I know that they fit. And then this one is going to go over there. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on. Making sure I get those corners. There's nothing worse than working on a really nice project and then 2 weeks later the little corners curl up on you. You can use score tape if you want, but glue gives you a little more movability. Now I forgot to tell you that on these the covers, I cut these out of photo paper, so they have a nice glint to them. But when you're gluing them, you have to be careful. You can't, they kind of stick. Well, real quick, okay. So you can't really burnish them with your bone folder. Put this guy over here. So it's more of a pat and smooth. Aren't you glad I did some of this ahead of time? Otherwise, you would just be bored sitting there watching me glue. And then I'll put this one over here. See how you have a little bit of wiggle room with this glue. So you get a nice edge. Whoa, see? Paid off. And put the last one on. And you don't have to glump on a whole lot of glue. The glue will do its job. It's not how much glue you put on. It's where you put it and let it do its job. Most of the time. You know, there's always exceptions. Okay, so there's my last guy. All right, so I'm just going to let those set for a second. We're going to bring back in your card. Make sure you know where the top is. We're going to go ahead and do the cover while this part is just kind of setting for a little bit, because we have to do some maneuvering with it. And I don't want them to glue themselves together or anything. So we'll just set that to the side, and I'll get out my contrast color, and this is my pattern paper. Dry fitting, looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and put those down. Now I originally saw this done several years ago. The designer's name was Colette Matega, or Matriga, I think it's pronounced. Anyway, she did a beautiful Christmas card. I just fell in love with it, and I used this these directions a lot for the basic part of my card, because you just can't improve on what she did. It was beautiful. I liked it. So this is going to go on here. Again, a little bit of moving around. And this one, whenever possible, I like to use my bone folder to get that glue to stick there. And this is going to go on the front here. That looks good. I'm going to glue that down. Now the background paper that I got, the little flowers and such, I got those from a website called Creative Fabrica. Oh my goodness. I think they have a lot of AI interaction in there, but it's a wonderful site, and they have just about anything you can think of, so I spend a lot of time there. And I like the the pattern paper, so I brought that over from there. Oops, I'm getting glue. Be sure and keep your work surface clean. All right, I'll put this on here. That looks good. Put that down, burnish it. Okay, looking good. All right, so this is the sentiment that I chose for the top. I've had these frogs forever. I do not know where they came from or the designer. I've just used them an awful lot. This one is going to go about here. I cut also in those directions when you're cutting out your contrast piece. I had you cut out a 2-inch square and then you cut it diagonally. And that is going to go in these corners. I just thought it needed a little more color. It looked too bland just putting it on there. So I'm going to glue this corner there and this corner here. So make sure that when you put your glue, you're going to put it on the back side of the sentiment, but you don't want to go more than an inch either direction. So I'm going to glue this here. Oops, yeah. And then down here. Then I'm just giving it a very small edge. And just pushing it till it gets where I want it, which is right there. Just add a little color around it. And then this other one goes down here. Oops. Yeah, this corner. Yeah, make sure you do opposite corners. Gotta pay attention all the time. Just push that down. And then I'll just lightly burnish that because I don't want it to move. And that's going to stay down. And then this is going to be centered up here on these corners. And it'll lay like that. Now I'm going to attach them with pop-ups. We can't do any pop-ups on the inside because there's too much interaction with this mechanism here. But I do want to attach these. And I've started using this 3M tape. I just love it. It sticks really good. You can get it in these little squares. And you can also get it in a big roll and cut anything you want. Because sometimes you want longer pop-ups than putting, 6 or 7 pop-ups in a row. It's an option. Anyway, let's take this off. I think you can probably guess there's more preparation work to this card than actually putting it together. So we'll put this here and I'll center it about like that. See how I'm looking at the corners and press down my pop-ups. Then one of the other things that we cut out was a little sentiment that's going to go across here. Sorry you're sick. It looked kind of plain, so I also had you cut out in the directions. This is just a scrap piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is glue this sentiment onto the scrap and then cut the size that I want around it. Because I didn't want a big piece, but I wanted to have some kind of an accent there. So I'm just putting that down. Remembering this is made out of photo paper, so you can't rub too hard. And then I'm just cutting it because that's very thin around there, and it would be a nightmare to try and center anything like that. And just like that. And I want that to pop up as well. So I'm going to put some pop-ups here in the center. And remember, when you put your pop-ups on, you don't want to put them near the edge because you don't really want to see them. You just want to know that that has been popped up. So give yourself 1/4 of an inch or so. And put that in there. Come on, get out there. There we go. And I put mine at an angle. You, of course, can do whatever you like. I thought this was too plain, so I just kind of angled it, staying inside my yellow lines there. Oops. Right there. I like the little sentiment on this. It says, "Life is better with friends." Can't top that. Okay. So there's the card front. This is the back. So let's go ahead and add those 4 Get Well Quick sentiments into the center here. To do that, you want to have, make sure you have your top up so you know top from bottom. And you want to have a mountain fold in the middle. Then just turn these 2 sides in. I'm just going to give them an extra burnish because I want this to lay as flat as possible. We've got a lot of bulk in here. All right, so what I'm doing is that center mountain fold is going to go in the middle here. So I'm folding these. I think I'm going to actually measure over 2 inches from each side because I want that to be in the middle. So, you know, this card was 4 by 12. So I'm going to go over here to the 2 inch. I'm going to make a line so I know where the center is. I can erase this, so I'm not making it dark, but I'm making it big. You see that little 2 inch line? All right. So I'm going to line up the mountain fold with that 2 inch line so I know that this is in the center. At the same time, I have to look at the bottom here to make sure that this is lined up. This part with the bottom of your mechanism. So see how that has to be kind of, that wouldn't work. This is better. So I'll fold that, keep my bottoms lined, and then I've got the mountain in the center there. And then with a pencil, over here, remember that horizontal line that we did that with the mountain? That goes all the way across. So we're just going to have a square up here. I'm going to mark this. So I have a square. Then I'm going to come over here to this side, draw a line down there. So now I have a square on this corner, and they're across from each other. So I'm going to pick this up, set it to the side, and that's where we're going to attach the Get Well Quick. So I'm going to bring my score tape in, and I'm just putting 2 strips in that top square. And then over here in the other diagonal square, stay inside that pencil line. I'll put 2 more strips. All right. And I've got to burnish those because you know that that tape has to be burnished or it does not stick as well. Then I'm going to take up all 4 of those at the same time. So you got to do a little bit of balancing here. So we bring this back in, fold your two edges, line this back up at the bottom and also on the sides where you did the pencil marks. That way you can line it up and then you still have your center up at the top. And when that's done and you're happy with it, you just hold on to the middle, spread this side out and press it down. And then over on the other side, you just bring this up, press it down, right like that. Now, if you choose not to use photo paper, sometimes it's easier to work with because you can, press down without messing anything up. Now, I have just a tiny bit right here, no biggie, but what I'm going to do is just clip that off anyway. There's always something that doesn't come out perfect. Okay, look at that. So you bring them forward, kind of push these little guys in the first time so that they remember where they're supposed to go. Just push them in and then it folds up. Wow, that always amazes me. I just think that is so cool. There you have it. Okay, so part of that green parts that you cut out in the beginning for the base was a 3-inch square. And that is going to go down here for a sentiment, in case you want to write something down there. And then I also made one. This is regular paper, it's not photo paper. You can't write on photo paper. And that's going to go in the center here so that they can write a sentiment. On your directions, that's down here on the bottom part, pattern paper. Okay, and this going to get glued on, so let me just dry fitting it real quick there. Then I'll glue this. This is going to go in the center here. There we go. On the corner here of this sentiment, I took a section of the background that I had put the frogs on, just to tie everything in. You want to keep everything equal looking. Keep your theme throughout your whole project. And then I'm going to glue this down. I'm not putting it on pop-ups, not only because of that mechanism, but it's hard to write on pop-ups. So this is going to be flat. I'm going to center that here, right like that. Okay, how's that looking? Pretty fun, huh? So I thought it looked a little plain. So these other frogs I found on clip art. You just go on the internet and just type in clip art. And I thought these guys were really cute and would go up there. So this one is going to go right up here, like that. And if you want, I cut out some little hats just to make it look like a nurse. So you can put that on there as well. I'm going to put the glue on the back of him. And I just did little dots, especially on his fingertips, because you want it to lay flat. And then go around his body. I think it's worth taking the time to fussy cut this guy out because I make it very whimsical and kind of fun. And then I like the little nurse hats, so I'm going to put some glue on this. want to use tweezers. If you get a little glue on him, don't worry about it because it does dry clear. And I'm going to put that down here, making sure that I get his body kind of in the corner because it has an angle. But basically I want to make sure that these hands are inside too. So I'll put him down there. And before I mash his head, I got to put his hat on. I'm going to slide that under here. Like that. Make that little finger, put that there. And then just push that down. I don't know, I like it. I think it's a nice surprise when somebody opens a card and then bam, there's another frog. All right, so basically that card is done. So that's the front, and I thought the back needed something. So I cut another frog. If you want to do the same, that would be great. I think it's worth the time it takes. Try not to, you got to have some tiny scissors to get in these little hands, but I think it's well worth it. And we'll just glue him down too. And this one is also going to have a hat. Get glue everywhere. Okay, so here's that little corner in his body I was talking about. I reversed these when I cut the pattern so that you could have them going two different ways. So I'll hold him there. And kind of tap that so I can get his hat in place. And that looks good. And then I'll just mash him down. And there you have it. Our twist and pop get well card. Here's the front. You open it up. Get well real quick, write your little sentiment, and it does fit in a 4x6 envelope, but if you have an envelope maker, I would suggest you do a 4.5 and 6.5 if you're going to mail it. So there's our back side. Okay. All right, and there you have it. Thank you so much for coming.